I do not know, men of Athens, how my accusers affected you. As for me, I almost carried away in spite of myself. So perseverately did they speak, and yet hardly anything of what they said is true. Of the main lies they told, one in particular surprised me, namely that you should be careful not to be deceived by an accomplished speaker like me. That they told were not ashamed to be immediately proved wrong by the facts. When I show myself to be an accomplished speaker at all, that I thought was most shameless on their part, unless indeed they call an accomplished speaker the man who speaks the truth. If they mean that, I would agree. I am an orator, but not after their manner. For indeed, as I say, practically nothing they said was true. From me you will hear the whole truth, though not by Zeus, gentlemen expressed and embroidered in styles, phrases like theirs, but things spoken at random and expressed in the first words that come to mind. For I put my trust in the justice of what I say, and let none of you expect anything else. It would not be fitting at my age, as it might be for a young man, to toy with those words when I appear before you. One thing I do ask, and I beg of you, gentlemen, if you hear me making my defense in the same kind of language as I am accustomed to use in the marketplace by the bankers' tables where many of you have heard me and elsewhere, do not be surprised to or create a disturbance on the account. The position is this. This is my first appearance in the law court at the age of 70. I am therefore simply a stranger to the manner of speaking here. Just as if I were really a stranger, you would certainly excuse me if I spoke in that dialect and manner in which I had been brought up. So to my present request seems a just one, for you to pay no attention to my manner of speech, but it better or worse, but not concentrate your attention on whether what I say is just or not. For the excellence of a judge lies in this, as that of a speaker lies in telling the truth. It is right for me, gentlemen, to defend myself first against the first lying accusations made against me and my first accusers, and then against the later accusations and the later accusers. There have been many who have accused me to you for many years now, and none of their accusations are true. These I fear much more than I fear Anytus and his friends, though they too are formidable. These earlier ones, however, are more so gentlemen. They got hold of the most of you from childhood, persuaded you, and accused me to quite falsely, saying that there is a man called Socrates, a wise man, a student of all things in the sky and below the earth, who makes the worst argument the stronger. Those who spread that rumor, gentlemen, are my dangerous accusers, for their hearers believe that those who study these things do not even believe in God. Moreover, these accusers are numerous and have been at it a long time. Also, they spoke to you at an age when you would most readily believe them. So some of you being children and adolescents, and they won their case by default as there was no defense. What is most absurd in all this is that one cannot even know or mention their names unless one of them is a writer of comedies. Those who maliciously and slanderously persuaded you, who also, when caught to deal with, one cannot bring one of them into the court or refute him. One must simply fight with shadows, as it were, in making one's defense and cross-examine when no one answers. I want you to realize, too, that my accusers are of two kinds: those who have accused me recently and the old ones I mentioned. And to think, I must first defend myself against the latter. For you have also heard their accusations. Very well, then. Accusations first, and to a much greater extent than the more recent. Very well, then. Men of Athens, I must surely defend myself and attempt to uproot your minds, uproot from your minds in so short a time the slander that has resided there so long. I wish this may happen if it is in any way better for you and me, and that my defense may be successful. But I think this is very difficult, and I am fully aware of how difficult it is. Even so, let the matter proceed as the God may wish, but I must obey the law and make my defense. Let us then take up the case from its beginning. What is the accusation from which arose the slander in which Meletus trusted when he wrote out the charge against me? What did they say when they slandered me? I must, as if they were my actual prosecutors, read the affidavit they would have sworn. It goes something like this: Socrates is guilty of wrongdoing in that he bruises himself studying things in the sky and below the earth. He makes the worst into the stronger argument, and in the comedy of Aristophanes, Socrates swinging about there saying he was walking on air and talking a lot of the other nonsense about things of which I know nothing at all. I do not speak in contempt of such knowledge. If someone is wise in these things, lest Meletus bring more cases against me. But gentlemen, I have no part in it, and on this point I call upon the majority of you as witnesses. I think it right that all those of you who have heard me conversing, and many of you should tell each other if any one of you has ever heard me discussing such subjects to any extent at all. From this you will learn that the other things said about me by the majority are the same kind. And if you have heard from anyone that I undertake to teach people and charge a fee for it, that is not true either. Yet I think it a fine thing to be able to teach people, as Gorgias of Leontini does, and Prodicus of Cius, and Hippos of Elis. Each of these men can go to any city and persuade the young who can keep company with anyone of their own fellow citizens. They want, without paying, to leave the company of these, to join with themselves, pay them a fee, and the grateful to them besides. Indeed, I learned that there is another wise man from Paros who is visiting us, for I met a man who has spent more money on Sophists than everybody else put together. Callias, the son of Hipponacus. So I asked him, he has 2 sons. Callias, I said, if your sons were colts or calves, we could find and engage a supervisor for them who would make them excel in their proper qualities, some horse breeder or farmer. Now, since there are men, whom do you have in mind to supervise them? Who is an expert in this kind of excellence? The human of the social kind. I think you must have given thought to, since you have sons. Is there such a person, I asked, or is there not? Certainly there is, he said. Who is he? I asked, what is his name, where is he from, and what is his fee? His name Socrates is his name Socrates is Evenus. He comes from Paros, and his feet is 5 minas. I thought Evenus a happy man if he really possesses this art and teaches for a moderate fee. Certainly, I would pride and preen myself if I had this knowledge, but I do not have it. Gentlemen, one of you might perhaps interrupt me and say, but Socrates, what is your occupation? From where have these slanders come? For surely if you did not busy yourself with something out of the common, all these rumors and talk would not have been arisen unless you did something other than most people. Tell us what it is that we may not speak inadvisably about you. Anyone who says that seems to be right, and I will try to show you what has caused this reputation and slander. Listen, then. Perhaps some of you will think I am jesting, but be sure that all that I shall say is true. What has caused my reputation is none other than a certain kind of wisdom. What kind of wisdom? Human wisdom, perhaps. It may be that I only really possess this, while those whom I mentioned just now are wise with a wisdom more than human. Else I cannot explain it, for I certainly do not possess it. Whoever says I do is lying and speaks to slander me. Do not create a disturbance, gentlemen. Even if you think I am boasting for the story I shall tell does not originate with me, but I will refer you to a trustworthy source. I shall call upon the God at Delphi as witness to the existence and nature of my wisdom, if it be such. You know, Chaerephon, he was my friend from youth, and the friend of most of you. As he shared your exile and your return, you surely know that the kind of a man he was, how impulsive in any course of action. He went to Delphi at one time and ventured to ask the oracle, as I say, gentlemen, do not create a disturbance. He asked if any man was wiser than I, and the python replied that no one was wiser. Chaerephon is dead. Chaerephon is dead, but his brother will testify to you about this. Consider that I tell you this because I will inform you about the origin of the slander. When I heard of this reply, I asked myself, whatever does the God mean? What is his riddle? I am very conscious that I am not wise at all. What then does he mean by saying that I am the wisest? For surely he does not lie. It is not legitimate for him to do so. For a long time I was at a loss as to his meaning, and then very reluctantly turned to some such investigation as this. I went to one of those reputed wise, thinking that there if anywhere I could refute the oracle and say to it, this man is wiser than I, but you said I was. Then when I examined this man, there is no need for me to tell you his name. He was one of our public men. My experience was something like this. I thought that he appeared wise to many people, and especially to himself, but he was not. I then tried to show him that he thought himself wise, but as a result, he came to dislike me, and so did many of the bystanders. So I withdrew and thought to myself, I am wiser than this man. It is likely that neither of us knows anything worthwhile, but he thinks he knows something when he does not. Whereas when I do not know, neither do I think I know, so I am likely to be wiser than he to a small extent. That I do not think I know what I do not know. After this I approached another man, one of those thought to be wiser than he, and I thought the same thing, and so I came to be disliked by both by him and by many others. After that, I proceeded simultaneously. I really, I realized to my sorrow and alarm that I was getting unpopular, but I thought that I must attach the greatest importance to the God's oracle, so I must go to all those who had the highest reputation were nearly the most deficient, while those who were thought to be inferior were the most knowledgeable. I must give you an account of my journeys as if they were labors. I had undertaken to prove the oracle irrefutable. After the politicians, I went to the poets, the writers of tragedies and dithyrambs, and the others, intending in their case to catch myself being more ignorant than they. So I took up those poems with which they seemed to have taken most trouble and asked them what they meant in order that I might at the same time learn something from them. I am ashamed to tell you the truth, gentlemen, but I must. Almost all the bystanders might have explained the poems better than their authors could. I soon realized that poets do not compose their poems with knowledge, but by some inborn talent and by inspiration, that seers and prophets who also say many fine things without any understanding of what they say. The poets seem to me to have had a similar experience at the same time. I mean, I saw that because of their poetry, they thought themselves very wise men in other respects, which they were not. So there again, I withdraw thinking that I had the same advantage over them as I had over the politicians. Finally, I went to the craftsmen, for I was conscious of knowing practically nothing, and I knew that I would find that they had knowledge of many fine things. In this, I was not mistaken. They knew things I did not know, and to that extent, they were wiser than I. But men of Athens and the good craftsmen seemed to me to have the same fault as the poets. Each of them, because of his success at his craft, thought himself very wise in other most important pursuits, and this error of theirs overshadowed the wisdom they had, so that I asked myself on behalf of the oracle whether I should prefer to be as I am, with neither their wisdom nor their ignorance, or to have both. The answer I gave myself and the oracle was that it was not to my advantage to be as I am. As a result of this investigation, men of Athens, I acquired much unpopularity of a kind what is hard to deal with, and it is heavy burden. Many slanders came from these people, and the reputation for wisdom. For in each case, the bystanders thought that I myself possessed the wisdom that I proved that my interlocutor did not have. What is probable, gentlemen, is that, in fact, the God is wise, and that his oracle response meant that human wisdom is worth little or nothing, and that when he says this man, Socrates, he is using my name as an example, as if he said, this man is among you mortals, is the wisest who, like Socrates, understands that his wisdom is worthless. So even now I continue this investigation as the God bade me, and I go around seeking out anyone, citizen or stranger, whom I think wise. Then, if I do not think he is, I come to the assistance of the God and show him that he is not wise. Because of this occupation, I do not have the leisure to engage in public affairs to any extent, nor indeed to look after my own. But I live in a great poverty because of my service to the God. Furthermore, the young men who follow me around of their own free will, those who have the most leisure, the sons of the very rich, take pleasure in hearing people question. They themselves often imitate me and try to question others. I think they find an abundance of men who believe they have some knowledge but know little or nothing. The result is that those whom they question are angry, not with themselves, but with me. They say that man Socrates is a pest, pest fellow who corrupts the young. If one asks me, if one, if one asks them what he does and what he teaches to corrupt them, they are silent, as they do not know, but so as not to appear at a loss. They mention those accusations that are available against the philosopher about things in the sky and things below the earth, about not believing in gods and making the worse the stronger argument. They would not have to tell the truth. I am sure that they have been proved to lay claim to knowledge when they know nothing. Have these people are ambitious, violent, and numerous. They are continually and conveniently talking about me. They have been filling your ears a long time with vehement slanders against me. From them, Meletus attacked me, and Anytus and Lincoln. Meletus being vexed on behalf of the poets, Anytus on behalf of the craftsmen, and the politicians, Lincoln on behalf of the orators. So that, as I started out by saying, I should be surprised if I could rid of you so much slander in so short a time. That men of Athens is the truth for you. I have hidden or disguised nothing. I know well enough that this very conduct makes me unpopular, and this is proof that what I say is true. That such is the slander against me, and that such are its causes. If you look into this, either now or later, this is what you will find. Let this suffice as a defense against the charges of my earlier accusers. After this, I shall try to defend myself against Meletus, that good and patriotic man, as he says he is, and my later accusers, as these men are different, a lot of accusers. Let us again take up their sworn deposition. It goes something like this. Socrates is guilty of corrupting the young, and if not believing in the gods, in whom the city believes, but in other new spiritual things, such as their charge. Let us examine it point by point. He says that I am guilty of corrupting the man, but I say that Meletus is guilty of dealing frivolously with serious matters, of irresponsibly bringing people onto court, and the professing to be seriously concerned with things about none of which he has never cared. And I shall try to prove that is so. Come here and tell me, Meletus, surely you consider it of the greatest importance that our young men be as good as possible? Indeed I do. Come then, tell these men who improves them. You obviously know in view of your concern. You say you have discovered the one who corrupts them, namely me, and you bring me here and accuse me to these men. Come inform these men and tell them who it is who improves them. You see, Meletus, that you are silent and know not what to say. Does this not seem shameful to you, and a sufficient proof of what I say, that you have not been concerned with any of this? Tell me, my good sir, who improves our young men? The laws? That is not what I am asking, but what person who has knowledge of the laws to begin with? These jurymen, Socrates. How do you mean, Meletus? Are these able to educate the young and improve them? Certainly, all of them, or some, but not others, all of them. Very good by Harold. You mentioned a great abundance of benefactors, but what about the audience? Do they improve the young or not? They do too. What about the members of the council? The councilors also, but Mellitus, what about the assembly? Do members of the assembly corrupt the young, or do they improve them? They improve them. All the atheists, it seems, to make the young into fine good men, except me, and I alone corrupt them. Is that what you mean? That is most definitely what I mean. You condemn me to a great misfortune. Tell me, does this also apply to horses? Do you think that all men improve them and one individual corrupts them, or is it quite the contrary true? One individual is able to improve them, or very few, namely the horse breeders, whereas the majority, if they have horses and use them, corrupt them. Is that not the case, Mellitus? Both with horses and all other animals. Of course it is, whether you and it to say so or not. It would be very happy state of affairs if only one person corrupted our youth, while the others improved them. You have made it sufficiently obvious, Mellitus, that you have never had any concern for our youth. You show your indifference clearly, that you have given no thought to the subjects about which you bring me to trial. And by Zeus, Mellitus, tell us also whether it is better for a man to live among good or wicked fellow citizens. Answer, my good man, for I am not asking a difficult question. Do not the wicked do some harm to those who are ever closest to them? Whilst good people benefit them, certainly. And does this man exist who would rather be harmed than benefited by his associates? Answer, my good sir, for the law orders you to answer. Is there a man who wants to be harmed? Of course not. Come on now, do you accuse me here of corrupting the young and making them worse deliberately or unwillingly, deliberately? What follows, Mellitus? Are you so much wiser at your age than I am? Am I? That you understand that wicked people always do some harm to their closest neighbors, while good people do them good? But I have not reached such a pitiful ignorance that I do not realize this, namely, that if I make one of the associates wicked, I am run the risk of being harmed by him, so that I do such a great evil deliberately, as you say. I do not believe you, Mellitus, and I do not think anyone else will. Either I do not corrupt the young, or if I do, it is unwittingly, and you are lying either case. Now, if I corrupt them unwittingly, the law does not require you to bring people to court for such unwittingly wrongdoings, but I get hold of them privately to instruct them and exhort them. For clearly, if I learn better, I shall cease to do what I am doing unwittingly. You, however, have avoided my company and were unwilling to instruct me, but you bring me here where the law requires one to bring those who are in need of punishment, not of instruction. Also, men of Athens, what I said was clearly true. Mellitus has never been at all concerned with these matters. Nonetheless, tell us, Mellitus, how you say that I corrupt the young, or is it obvious from your deposition that it is by teaching them not to believe in gods in whom the city believes, but in other new spiritual things? Is this not what you say I teach and so corrupt them? That is most certainly what I do say. Then by those very gods about whom we are talking, Mellitus makes this clearer to me and to these men. I cannot be sure whether you mean that I teach the belief that there are some gods, and therefore I myself believe that there are gods, and I am not altogether an atheist, nor I am guilty of that. Not, however, the gods in whom the city believes, but others, and that this is the charge against me, that they are others, that there are others. Or whether you mean that I do not believe in gods at all, and that is what I teach to others. This is what I mean, that you do not believe in gods at all. You are a strange fellow, Mellitus. Why do you say this? Do I not believe, as other men do, that the sun and the moon are gods? No, by Zeus, gentlemen of the jury. For he says that the sun is stone and the moon is earth. My dear Mellitus, do you think you are prosecuting Anaxagoras? Are you so competent of these men, and think them so ignorant of letters as not to know that the books of Anaxagoras, of Clazomenae, are full of those theories, and further that the young men learn from me that they can buy from time to time for a drachma the most in the bookshops. Ridicule Socrates if he pretends that the theories are his own, especially as they are so absurd. Is that by Zeus what you think of me, Mellitus? What do I not believe that there are any gods? That is what I say, that you do not believe in the gods at all. You cannot be believed, Mellitus. Even I think by yourself. The man appears to me, men of Athens, highly insulated and uncontrolled. He seems to have made this disposition out of insolence, violence, and youthful zeal. He is like one who composed a riddle and is trying it out. Will the wise Socrates realize that I am jesting and contradicting myself, or shall I deceive him and others? I think he contradicts himself in the evident, as he said, Socrates is guilty of not believing in gods, but believing in gods, and surely that is the part of a jester. Examine with me, gentlemen, how he appears to contradict himself and you. Mellitus, answer us. Remember, gentlemen, that I asked you when I began not to create a disturbance if I proceed my usual manner. Does any man, Mellitus, believe in human activities who do not believe in human? Make him answer, and not again and again create a disturbance. Does any man who does not believe in horses believe in horseman activities, or in the flute playing activities, but not in the flute players? No, my good sir, no man could. If you are not willing to answer, I will tell you and these men. Answer the next question. However, does any man believe in spiritual activities who does not believe in spirits? No one. Thank you. Thank you for answering, if reluctantly, when these gentlemen made them, whether new or old, but not at any rate spiritual things according to what you say. And to do this, you have sworn in your deposition. But if I believe in spiritual things, I must quite inevitably say, believe in spirits. Is that not so? It is indeed. I shall assume that you agree, as you do not answer. Do we not believe spirits to be either gods or the children of gods? Yes or no? Of course. Since I do believe in spirits, as you admit, if spirits are gods, this is what I mean when I say you speak in riddles and in jest. As you state that I do not believe in gods, and then again that I do, since I do believe in spirits. If, on the other hand, The spirits are children of the gods, bastard children of the gods, and nymphs or some other mothers, as they are said to be. What man would believe children of the gods to exist but not gods? What That would be just absurd as to believe the young of the horses and asses, namely mules, to exist, but not to believe in the existence of horses and asses. You must have made this deposition, Melitus, either to test or because you were at a loss to find any true wrongdoing of which you accuse me. Now, if by saying this I corrupt the young, this advice must be harmful, but if anyone says that I give different advice, he is talking Now, if by saying this I corrupt the young, this advice must be harmful, but if anyone is saying that I give different advice, he is talking nonsense. On this point, I would say to you, men of Athens, whether you believe Anytus or not, whether you acquit me or not, do so know the understanding that this is my course of action. If I am to face death many times, do not create a disturbance to me, but abide by my request, not to cry out at what I say, but to listen. For I think it will be your advantage to listen. And I am about to say other things at which you will perhaps cry out. By no means do this, but sure that if you kill me, the sort of man I say I am, you will not harm me no more than yourselves. Neither Melitus nor Antius can harm me in any way. He could not harm me, for I do not think it is permitted that a better man be harmed by worse. Certainly, he might kill me or perhaps banish or disfranchise me, which he and maybe others think to be great harm, but I do not think so. I think he is doing himself much greater harm, but doing what he is doing now, attempting to have a man executed unjustly. Indeed, men of Athens, I am far from making a defense now on my own behalf, as might be thought, but on yours, to prevent you from wrongdoing by mistreating the God's gift to you by condemning me. For if you kill me, you will not easily find another like me. I was attached to this city by the God, though it seems a ridiculous thing to say, as upon a great and noble horse, which was somewhat sluggish because of its size, and indeed needed to be stirred up by kind and gadfly. It is to fulfill some such function that I believe the God has placed me in the city. I never cease to rouse each other and every one of you to persuade and reproach you all day. And everywhere I find myself in your company, another such man will not easily come to be among you, gentlemen. And if you believe me, you will spare me. You might easily be annoyed with me, as people are when they are aroused from a doze, and strike out at me. I am convinced by Antius you could easily kill me, and then you could sleep one for the rest of your days, unless the God in his care and care for you sent you someone. That I am the kind of person to be a gift of the God to the city, you might realize from the fact that it does not seem like human nature for me to have neglected all my own affairs, and to have tolerated this neglect for so many years, while I was always concerned with you, approaching each one of you like a father for an elder brother, or an elder brother to persuade you to care for virtue. Not if I profited from this by charging you a fee for my advice, there will be some sense to it. But you can see for yourselves that for all their shameless accusations, my accusers have not been able in their abundance to bring forward a witness to say that I have ever received a fee or asked for one. I, on the other hand, have a convincing witness that I speak my truth by poverty. It may seem strange that while I go around and give this advice privately and interfere in private affairs, I do not venture to go to the assembly and there advise the city. You have heard me to give the reason for this in many places. I have a divine or spiritual sign which Mellitus has ridiculed in his deposition. This began when I was a child. It was a voice, and wherever it speaks, it turns me away from something I am about to do, but it never encourages me to do anything. This is what has prevented me from taking part in public affairs, and I think it was quite right to prevent me. Be sure, men of Athens, that if I had long ago attempted to take part in politics, I should have died long ago and benefited neither you nor myself. Do not be angry with me for speaking the truth. No man will survive who genuinely opposes you or any other crowd and prevents the occurrence of many unjust and illegal happenings in the city. A man who really fights for justice must lead a private, not a public life, if he is to survive for even a short time. I shall give you great proofs of this, not words, but what you esteem these. Listen to what happened to me, that you may know that I will not yield to any man contrary to what it is right, for fear of death, even if I should die, at once not yielding. The things I should tell you are commonplace and smack of the law courts, but they are true. I have never held any other office in the city, but I served as a member of the council, and our tribe, Antiochus, was president at the time when you wanted to try as a body of the generals who had failed to pick up the survivors of the naval battle. Oh, they enjoy hearing those being questioned who think they are wise but are not. And this is not unpleasant to this has, as a thing, been enjoined upon me by the God, by means of the oracles and dreams, and in every other way that divine manifestation has ever ordered a man to do anything. This is true, gentlemen. You can easily be established. If I corrupt some young men and have corrupted others, then surely some of them who have grown older and realized that I gave them bad advice when they were young should now themselves come up here to accuse me and avenge themselves. If they were unwilling to do so themselves, then some of their kindred, their fathers or their brothers, or by me. I see many of these present here. First Credo, my contemporary and fellow Demes. And fellow Desmond, the father of Critobulus here. Next, Lysinus of Spatus, the father of Ergonchines here. Also, Antiphon, the Syphonician, the father of Epigenes, the others whose brothers spent their time in this way. Nicostatus, the son of Theodotides, brother of Theodotus, and Theodotus has died, so he could not influence him. Perillus here, son of Demodocus, whose brother was Thegus. There is Adeimantus, son of Ariston, brother of Plato here. Antidorus, brother of Apollodorus here. I commission many others, someone of whom surely Meletus should have brought in as a witness in his own speech. If he forgot to do so, then let him do it now. I will yield time if he has anything of the kind to say. You will find quite the contrary, gentlemen. These men are all ready to come to help the corrupter, the man who has harmed their kind, as Meletus and Anytus say. Now those who were corrupted might as well have a reason to help me, but those uncorrupted, their kindred who are older men have no reason to help me, except the right and proper one, that they know that Meletus is lying and that I am telling the truth. Very well, gentlemen, this and maybe other similar things is what I have to say in my defense. Perhaps one of you might be angry as he recalls that when he himself stood trial on the less dangerous charge, he begged and implored the juryman with many tears that he brought his children and many of his friends and family into court to arouse as much pity as they could, but that I do none of these things. Even though I may seem to be running the ultimate risk, thinking of this, he might feel resentful towards me and angry about this. Cast his vote in anger. If there is such among you, I do not deem there is, but if there is, I think it would be right to say and reply, my good sir. The jury now gives the verdict of guilty, and Meletus asks for the penalty of death. There are many reasons for my not being angry with you, convicting me, men of Athens, and what happened was not unexpected. I am much more surprised at the number of votes cast on each side, for I did not think the decision would be by so few voters, but by great as many. As it is, a switch of only 30 votes would have acquitted me. I think myself that I have been cleared of Meletus' charges, and not only this, but it is clear to all that if Anytus and Lycian had not joined him in accusing me, he would have been fined 1,000 drachmas for not receiving a fifth of the votes. He assesses the penalty at death. So be it. What counter assessment should I propose to you, men of Athens? Clearly, it should be penalty I deserve, and what I do deserve to suffer or pay, because I have deliberately not led a quiet life, but have neglected what occupies most people with household affairs, the position of general or public orator, or the other offices, the political clubs and factions that exist in the city. I thought myself too honest to survive if I occupy myself with those things. I did not follow that path that would have made me of no use either to you or myself, but I went to each of you privately and conferred upon him what I say is the greatest benefit, by trying to persuade him not to care for any of his belongings before caring that he himself should be as good and as wise as possible, not to care for the city's possessions more than the city itself, and to care for other things in the same way. What do I deserve for being such a man? Some good men of Athens. If I must truly make an assessment according to my deserts and something suitable, what is suitable for a poor benefactor who needs a leisure to exhort you? Nothing is more suitable, gentlemen, than for such a man to be fed in Partanium, much more suitable for him than for anyone who has won a victory at Olympia. With a pair of with a pair of team with a pair or a team of horses, the Olympian victor makes you think yourself happy. I make you be happy. Besides, he does not need food, but I do. So if I must make a just assessment of what I deserve, I assess it at this: free meals in the Puritanium. When I say this, you might think, as when I spoke of appeals to pity and entreaties, that I speak arrogantly, but that is not the case. Men of Athens, rather, it is like this. I am convicted that I never willingly wronged anyone, but I am convincing you of this, for we have talked together but a short time. If it were the law with us, as it is elsewhere, that a trial for life should not last one but many days, you should be convinced. But now it is not easy to disciple great slanders in short time, since I am convinced that I wrong no one. I am not likely to wrong myself to say that I deserve some evil, and to make some such assessment against myself. What should I fear? That I should suffer the penalty Meletus has assessed for me, against me, of which I say I do not know whether it is good or bad. Am I then to choose in preference to this something that I know very well to be an evil, and assesses the penalty at that? Imprisonment? Why should I live in prison, always subjected to the ruling magistrates, the 11th, a fine and imprisonment until I pay it? That would be the same thing for me, as I have no money. Exile, for perhaps you might accept that assessment. I should have to be inordinately fond of life. Men of Athens, to be so unreasonable as to suppose that other men will easily tolerate my company and conversation when my fellow citizens, have been unable to endure them, but found them a burden and resented them, so that you are now far from it, gentlemen. It will be a fine life at my age to be driven out of one city after another, for I know very well that whenever I go, the young men will listen to my talk as they do here. If I drive them away, they will themselves persuade their elders to drive me out. If I do not drive them away, their fathers and relations will drive me out on their behalf. Perhaps someone might say, but Socrates, if you leave us, will you not be able to live quietly without talking? Now this is the most difficult point on which to convince some of you. If I say that it is impossible for me to keep quiet, because that means disobeying the God, you will not believe me and will think I am being ironical. On the other hand, if I say that it is the greatest good for a man to discuss virtue every day and those other things about which you hear me conversing and testing myself and others for the unexamined life, it is not worth living for me, and you will believe me less. What I say is true, gentlemen, but it is not easy to convince you. At the same time, I am not accustomed to think that I deserve any penalty. If I had money, I would assess the penalty at the amount I could pay. For that would not hurt me, but I have none unless you're willing to set the penalty at the amount I could pay, and perhaps I could pay you 1 mina of silver. So that is my assessment. Plato here, men of Athens and Crito and Critobulus and Apollodorus. Bid me put the penalty at the thirsty minas, and they will stand certi for the money. Well then, that is my assessment, and they will be sufficient guarantee of pay. The jury now votes again and sentences Socrates to death. It is for the sake of short time, men of Athens, that you will acquire the reputation and the guilt in the eyes of those who want to denigrate the city of having killed Socrates, a wise man, for they who want to revile you will say that I am wise, even if I am not. If you had waited but a little while, this would have happened of its own accord. You see, my age that I am already advanced in years and close to death, I am saying that this is not all you, but to those who condemn me to death. And to these same words, I say, perhaps you think that I am convicted for lack of such words as might have convinced you. If I thought I should say or do all I could do avoid my sentence, far from it. I was convicted because I lacked the words, but not boldness and shameless, and the willingness to say to you what you would most gladly have heard from me. Lamentations and tears and my saying and doing many things that I say are unworthy of me, but that you are accustomed to hear from others. I did not think that then that the danger I ran should make me do anything mean, nor do I now regret the nature of my defense. I would much rather die after this kind of defense than live after making the other kind. Neither I nor any other man should on trial in war contrive to avoid death at any cost. Indeed, it is often obvious in battle that one could escape death by throwing away one's weapons and by turning to supplicate one's purgers, and there are many ways to avoid death and every kind of danger. If one will venture to do or say something to avoid it, it is not difficult to avoid death. Gentlemen, it is much more difficult to avoid wickedness, for it runs faster than death. Slow and elderly as I am, I have been caught by a slower perjure, whereas my accusers, being clever and sharp, have been caught by the quicker wickedness. I leave you now condemned to death by you. but they are condemned by the truth to wickedness and injustice. So I maintain my assessment, and they maintain theirs. This perhaps had to happen, and I think it is as it should be. Now I want to prophecy. Now I want to prophecy to those who convicted me, for I am at the point when men prophesy most, when they are about to die. I say judgment to those who voted to kill me, that vengeance will come upon you immediately after my death. A vengeance much harder to bear what than that which you might that bear than that which you took in killing me. You did this in the belief that you would avoid giving an account of your life, but I maintain that the quite opposite will happen to you. There will be more people to test you, whom I know held back, but you did not notice it. They will be more difficult to deal with, and as they will be younger and will resent them more. You are wrong if you believe that by killing people you are preventing anyone from approaching you for not living in the right way. To escape such tests is neither possible nor good, but it is best and the easiest not to discredit other, but to prepare oneself to be as good as possible. With this prophecy to you who convicted me, I part from you. I should be glad to discuss what has happened with those who voted for my acquittal during the time that the officers of the court are busy, and I do not yet have to depart to my death. So, gentlemen, stay with me a while, for nothing prevents us from talking to each other while it is allowed to you as being my friends. I want to show you the meaning of what has occurred. A surprising thing has happened to me. German, I would rightly call German at all the previous times. My familiar prophetic power, my spiritual manifestation frequently opposed me, even in the small matters when I was about to do something wrong. But now that, as you can see for yourselves, I was faced with what one might think and what is generally thought to be the worst of evils. My divine sign has not opposed me either when I left home at dawn or when I came into court, or at any time that I was about to say something during my speech. Yet in other talks, it often held me back in the middle of my speaking. But now it is supposed to no word deed of mine. What do I think the reason for this is? I will tell you what has happened to me. What has happened to me will be a good thing. And those of us who believe death to be an evil are certainly mistaken. I have convincing proof of this, for it is impossible that the familiar sign did not oppose me if I was not about to do what was right. Let us reflect in this way too, that there is good hope, that death is a blessing, for it is one of two things: either the dead are nothing and have no perception of anything, or it is, as we are told, a change and relocating of the soul from here to another place. If it is complete lack of perception, like a dreamless sleep, then death would be great advantage. For I think that if one had to pick out that night during which a man slept soundly and did not dream, but put beside it the other nights and days of his life, and then see how many days and nights have been better and more pleasant than the night, not only a private person but a great king would find them easy to count compared with the other days and nights. If death is like this, I say it is an advantage for all eternity, where it seemed to be more. All eternity would then seem to be no more than a single night. If, on the other hand, death is a change from here to another place, and what we are told is true, and all who have died are there, what is the greater blessing? Could there be gentlemen of the jury? If anyone arriving in Hayes will have escaped from those who call themselves jurymen here, and will find those true jurymen who are said to sit in judgment there, Minos and Rhodmanthus and Acus and Triptolemus and the other demigods who have been upright their own life. Would that be a poor kind of change? Again, what would one of you give to keep company with Orpheus and Muses, Hesiod and Homer? I am willing to die many times if that is true. It would be a wonderful way for me to spend my time whenever I met Palamedes and Ajax, the son of Telamon, and any other of the men of the old who died through an unjust conviction. To compare my experience with theirs, I think it would be pleasant. Most important, I could spend my time testing and examining people that there, as I do here, as to whom among them is wise and who he thinks is but is not. What would one not give gentlemen in the jury for the opportunity to examine the man who led the great expedition against Troy, or Ades, Sisyphus, and immeasurable other men and women on commission? It would be an extraordinary happiness to talk with them and keep company with them, examine them. In any case, they would certainly not put one to death for doing so. They are happier there than we are here in other respects, and for the rest of the time they are deathless, if indeed what we are told is true. You too must be good. You too must be of a good hope as regards death, gentlemen of the jury, and keep this one truth in mind, that a good man cannot be harmed either in life or in death, and that his affairs are not neglected by the gods. What has happened to me now has not happened to itself, but it is not clear to me that it was better for me to die now and to escape from trouble. That is why my divine sign did not oppose me to any point. So I am certainly not angry with those who convicted me or with my accusers. Of course, that was not their purpose when they accused and convicted me. But they thought they were hurting me, and for this, they deserve blame. This much I ask for them. When my son grows up, avenge yourselves by causing them the same kind of grief that I caused you. If you think they care for money or anything else more than they care for virtue, or if they think they are somebody when they are nobody, reproach them as I reproach you. That they do not care for the right things and think they are worthy when they are not worthy for anything. If you do this, I should have been justly treated by you, and my sons also. Now the hour to part has come. I go to die, you go to live. Which of us goes to the better lot is known to no one except the God.